Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Mallory, a first-time mom pregnant with a baby boy and due in early January of 2020. And in this video, I'm talking about why I'm not making a birth plan. So if you are new here, welcome. And if you're a subscriber already, welcome back. If you're not subscribed, I really encourage you to hit that red subscribe button down below and join the tribe. I have been making pregnancy related videos since I was about 5 weeks into pregnancy. And as I'm filming this video, I actually am exactly 37 weeks, but by the time you see this, I will be about 1 week out from my due date. So I'm really glad you're here and I hope you'll stick around. So I know that this topic is a little bit controversial, and saying that I'm not making a birth plan might be a controversial statement, but I think it's something that's really important to address and to discuss because I think there's valid points on both sides. However, because this is my video and my channel, I want to expound on why I am not making a birth plan and what I'm doing instead. So I think that maybe having a birth plan may give some people a sense of having control over their birth, of being able to direct their birth. Like, it's your birth, right? You want it to go how you want it to go. And also, I think nobody wants to be pushed around in their birth experience. You know, you don't want to go to the hospital and feel like your doctor and your nurses and the hospital policies are pushing you around. However, if that's you, if you're making a birth plan, and I'm not saying that everyone that makes a birth plan does it because of this, but if that's your situation, and I'm saying this as a nurse advocate, if you're making a birth plan because you feel like you're going to get pushed around by your team, you need a new team. Okay? A very rigid birth plan is not going to solve having an unsupportive team. So even if it's late in the game, even if you're like third trimester, you still should be able to change doctors and hospitals as long as you have your insurance situation allows that, etc. But I really want to drive that home. Do not make a birth plan because you're afraid or because you feel unsupported by your team. That's not going to fix an unsupportive team. Secondly, birth and plan just don't go together. And I know a lot of nurses, I'm a registered nurse, and I know a lot of other nurses also believe this. Birth is very fluid. It's unpredictable. I know that a lot of people like to say that birth is natural, which it is. Obviously, it's a natural physiological process, and that women have been doing this for millennia and blah, blah, blah. We know how to give birth. But the fact is that sometimes things happen in birth that you don't expect. And not necessarily, I'm not saying that things even go wrong in birth, but things that you didn't plan for might happen. Like maybe you wanted to go unmedicated, but then your birth goes really, really long and you end up needing an epidural, or you end up needing augmentation with Pitocin, and the pain is just too much and you need to get an epidural. But getting an epidural was not in your plan. You actually wanted to avoid an epidural, right? And so there's just things that can happen, or maybe you weren't planning on a C-section and then last minute you need an emergency C-section. That wasn't in your plan. So things can happen that just crop up as birth goes along. And I've even heard that some moms that make a birth plan, especially if it's very, very specific, and then things don't go according to plan, then they feel like a failure afterwards. And I really wanted to avoid that feeling. And again, I'm not saying that every woman that makes a birth plan and things don't go according to plan feel like a failure, but that can be an outcome. So I just wanted to avoid that. So now you're probably wondering, well, Mallory, if you're not making a birth plan, what are you doing instead? And instead of making a birth plan, I am making birth wishes, or have made birth wishes already. And perhaps you might think, well, isn't it just a matter of semantics? And maybe it is, depending on your view of what a birth plan is. You know, there can be different definitions of what a birth plan is. Not everyone who makes a plan has it set in stone. So maybe, yeah, it's more about the mindset. But I specifically did not want to make a birth plan. I wanted to have birth wishes. This means that I have a few things that are written down that I really would like to have, if possible, if it's safe, if something else isn't needed. I wanted to also keep an open mind about what I want, what I might want in the moment. I didn't want to outline super specific things like, I want to have this song playing as the baby's being born, or I want to have this specific essential oil being diffused while I'm in labor. Cause like, well, I don't even know what I want. I don't know in advance what essential oil I'm going to want to use. I'm just going to bring what I think an assortment of what I might want. And then I'll choose what I want in the moment, or maybe I won't choose any at all because I won't want it. Right. So there's so many like little details that I just don't know what I'm going to want. So I don't want to write them down. And these birth wishes, while I want them, obviously, and that's why I've written them down, it's not going to be the end of the world if they don't happen. Also, my list of wishes is pretty short, and I'm going to read them to you guys because my hospital already does a lot of the things that I already want. For example, skin to skin and breastfeeding is standard operating procedure in that first hour after birth. Also, delayed cord clamping is an SOP. And what else? They encourage physiologic birth, which is giving birth without an epidural. They encourage walking around. They will hook you up to a wireless monitor so you can walk around, get in the shower. Like there's all these things that they already do that I'm like, well, yeah, I want that, that, and that. All right, so I'm going to read you guys what I wrote in my birth wishes. So at the top, I wrote birth wishes, my name, my husband's name, the baby's gender, and his name, which I'm not going to tell you guys yet. So I have 3 categories. The first heading is during labor. I want to labor as long as possible without an epidural or pain meds. I will ask if I want an epidural or pain meds. Okay. And I could have also said, don't offer me an epidural or pain meds, but I wanted to use more I statements. That's always a good idea when you're telling people what you want. You want to use I statements. The next bullet point is, unless IV fluids or medication are necessary, I would like to labor with just a saline lock and drink clear liquids to stay hydrated. So because that at my hospital, it is standard to be hooked up to an IV. So I'm specifically saying that I don't want that. I would like, unless IV fluids are warranted for some reason, or I need a medication via IV, I just want a saline lock. So that's where they put the catheter into your vein and then they lock it and you just have that in your arm and you're not hooked up to a line. And then the third bullet point for during labor is I will voice either by me or through my husband what I need as needed. So that's like, if I want the lights dimmed, I'll ask for the lights dimmed. If I want my essential oil diffuser turned on or off, I'll ask for that. If I want, ice chips, I'll ask for that. So, I will just ask for what I want in the moment as it comes up. And I think that's a really good policy to have. Then the next heading is in the event of a C-section. So I'm not planning on having a C-section, but I wanted to have a couple things down in case it does happen. I want my husband, Mark Mayor, present in the OR for as much of the procedure as possible. And I think that as possible is a really good thing to put in there so that you're not like being demanding. And then I would like to do skin to skin and breastfeeding as soon as it is safe for baby, or have my husband do skin to skin if I am unable. And then after delivery, I need gluten-free snacks and meals. So that's the only thing I said I need, because I do need that. I have to eat gluten-free because of health reasons. And so they just need to know that may go into my pre-admission interview, but since I haven't had it yet at this time, I don't know if they ask about like dietary restrictions. They probably do. So if that's going to be in my file already, I'm going to take that out for after delivery. And then I wrote a little paragraph at the end, and I said, ultimately, my goal is a safe delivery, a healthy baby, and a healthy me. Thank you for considering and honoring my birth wishes to the best of your ability. As a nurse myself, I understand how birth and plan just don't go together, which is why I want to keep things as fluid as possible. I look forward to working with my hospital name, nurses, and staff toward a fantastic birth experience, with a smiley face. So that's kind of like a personal nod to the nurses and the staff. Just like, thank you so much for considering what I would like. In conclusion, this video is not meant to bash people who have decided to make a birth plan. It's not meant to bash birth plans in general. I just wanted to explain why I'm not doing a birth plan and why I'm doing birth wishes and what I mean by birth wishes. I just mean things that I really would like, but if they don't happen, that's okay. And I know that some people don't even write that down. They kind of know what they want in their head, but they're just willing to go with the flow. And I think if you know that that's what's best for your personality, then go with that. I tend to want to control things. It's kind of like a flaw of mine. And this might seem counterintuitive, but I think if I wrote down very specific and rigid plans for my birth, that ultimately something would end up going wrong or not happening, and that might make me feel like I'm out of control, and I want to avoid that feeling of feeling out of control. So it's going to make me feel more with it, more stable if I don't have a rigid plan, because then there's nothing to mess up, right? So I know that might seem a little convoluted, and maybe that's just how my brain works, but I think for me, not having a rigid, very detailed plan is what will be best for my mental stability. Let me know in the comments. I really want to engage with you guys on this topic. What do you think on the whole birth plan thing? Did you make a birth plan for your birth, or are you making one? Or are you more along the lines of what I'm doing and doing birth wishes? I've also heard of people calling it a birth strategy, which to me, that would be even more overarching than doing birth wishes. It would be like, this is kind of the overall thing I want for my birth, and not even like bulleted points like I did. So what are your all's thoughts and feelings on this topic? I'm really, really curious. Of course, keep it respectful. We're not here to bash anyone that chooses whatever. I'm not saying birth plans are bad, but I just want to know what you guys think and what you have done or are planning on doing. So leave your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to hit subscribe and bell buttons so that you get notified when I post new videos. And stay tuned for more baby-related stuff and motherhood stuff. Thank you guys so much for coming along this journey with me. And in the meantime, take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.